Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And this is one of these ones that is now coming up a lot. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. And I'm here with Cathy Huang, who is a founder in whom we have the privilege of investing. And she started a company called Folio, which I'll let her tell you more about. And she's been at Google. She's been like a solo traveler funded by a fellowship, worked with the Gates Foundation, and has a life story that she can choose how much she wants to share about how she grew up with a foster family. And so, Cathy, I'll just turn to you. Question of the day.
All right, Roy, I'm super happy to be here. The question of the day is, how should I use AI to get more done?
And so can I just ask before we jump on answering it, when you think about that question for yourself, like the dilemmas, how does it come up for you? Is it sort of like I think some people have this, I keep hearing about this AI thing. What do I do in order to use it more? And they just feel like they should have an answer, but maybe you have a more specific variation of that of like, I've been trying to figure out X, or like, where does the rubber hit the road for you with the question?
Yeah, I think for me, there's two things I love using AI for. It's either to get more done faster, or to get more done better. So those are the two where the rubber hits the road.
Love that. And I think that's a really good division for thinking about it. I'll just say, even before those two outcomes, which are great, the way that I think about it, somebody gave me this line, maybe my partner James shared it, of, AI is like riding a bike. You have to like get on in order to learn.
Yeah.
I think people should spend more time playing with it than talking about it. And so if you are not regularly using all of the flavors, but ChatGPT, the inside Bing chatbot, Gemini with Google, Claude from Anthropic, Perplexity, just banging on it a lot teaches you a ton. Because the way it doesn't work is, I mean, I've had this kabuki theater conversation with people a bunch of times where they're like, AI, I tried to get it to draft this thing. It wasn't very good. And to me, that's like a little bit like, I got on a bike and I fell right over. Bikes don't work. It's like, yeah, you got to learn how to ride, and then you can get good at it. And by the way, then you'll learn their different styles of it, and you'll learn, there are ways to improve. So that's kind of one like general take, is just do it. Then more specifically, then the issue is people don't have mental prompts in their workflow that prompt them to do it. So I think to myself, every time I'm annoyed by a task is when I think I should consider using AI. If I'm doing something that feels super manual, if I'm doing something that is very time consuming, and then I'll give some examples of speeding up. And then we'll talk about some of the better. And I want to get from you well, actually, why don't I stop for a second before I go into the examples? How does that way of thinking about it land for you?
I think it makes sense. I think we should definitely try more tools. I'm surprised that the people that are talking about it feel like they haven't tried it as much. So that's good. I think that's good advice. One of the ways that we've used
Everybody pretends it's like a book that you talk about. It's like, oh yeah, I read that book. It's like, no, you fucking didn't. And so people pretend, even though, sorry, but keep going.
I mean, you could use AI to pretend like you read the
Yeah,
book.
right. It's a good point.
Yeah. Right. I guess like the ways we've used AI most effectively is when we actually embed it into our platform. So like, what are the things we could fully trust it to automate? And a big part of that is like, we interview students all the time. We run through about 5,000.
So what does your platform do?
Oh, right. Yes. So we basically use AI to scale college career centers. So that means that we can assess the students' skills, help them understand what they want to do, and then provide them a guaranteed internship in their desired career path. So that's what we do. And so when we are, assessing 5,000 students at once per month, we're a 6-person team. And so it's impossible for us to do that scalably and accurately as much as we want to. So we've used, really great companies like Hume AI to basically assess the students in an interview and understand what their intonations are, what their response rates are, and if they're actually like answering succinctly, essentially, and answering the questions that we want them to answer. Lots of other ways we use it, but essentially, if you can really embed it into your platform, it'll help automate things without.
I think so that's like, to me, if you have the superpower of being able to build software and have a platform, then you can start to think about the ways it can be useful and improve. In the meanwhile, many of the rest of us are just kind of like typing in the box, and we got to get what we can get. And I think most of the integrations with most platforms now, I personally haven't found that useful yet. It's like, yeah, there's a use AI box here, but how much better or worse is that than just going over to this other tab, in my browser? It's not that much better. And there are exceptions to that. I think Apple's announcements will probably weave things in an intuitive way into lots of mobile workflows. But for speeding up, so like, what are the things that slow me down? This person wrote me a really long email. How many times have I copied and pasted the email in and been like, can you please summarize this email to me? It's like, this person is asking you for X. And I'm like, oh, now I get it. So there's a lot of like shorten and summarize. There is, what are the key points of these two articles and how do they differ from one another, where you're trying to extract from something longer. There is the kinds of questions you would like to be able to search for, but in Google it takes a lot of searching and clicking around, and I use Perplexity for a lot of these. We are like very big fans of AI for search because you don't ever really quite trust what you get in search. And then as far as making things better, usually for me the challenge there is the LLMs are unreliable. And so it gets better by suggesting things that are possibly helpful. Give me 6 ideas for how I could end this piece that I'm writing. Suggest some, a game to play with my daughter while we're waiting in line. Well, that's not at work. But I think that the better is sort of like when you need an additional idea, but it's kind of costless if it doesn't work right. If you try to get AI to be your delegated employee to get things done, then I just think at some point it has diminishing marginal returns. And so that's some of the stuff I use it for. And then I'll also just say, I follow a lot of people like, Ethan Mollick, the Penn professor, has, great thoughts. And then you start to realize, Dan Schipper at Every has a lot of really good stuff. There's a VC named Yohai Nakajima who has built a lot of good tools. And you watch people using these things and you're like, well, that never occurred to me. And you learn about things like chain of density prompting and all kinds of techniques for like, I could ride a bike, balancing on it with, 1 foot. I can't, but maybe I could. And then the last thing I just say is I think these things also differ a lot demographically. So for me as a white man to be doing these things, I'm probably going to ask and answer different things is my guess. And we know from research, and Charter, another company we invested in, did some research that women are just less likely to use AI at work. And so I would just say everybody should use it, but especially if you're from a background where you feel the system may be working against you in other ways, race, gender, whatever it is, then double, use it, because these are the tools that people will use to improve each themselves. And I'm curious what examples, if any, you found of how you've used these things and what, at work and what's been useful to you.
Ooh, okay. So I guess I've been using a product called Clockwise for a long time. And this is sort of unfair. It's my friend's company. But it basically helps me find time. So, now it understands that I like to do meetings at certain periods of time. I want to have, blocks of time where I can focus and get my work done. And so it almost just automates my life in terms of scheduling and timing. So I love that tool. The other one that I do a lot of, because I'm new and I'm a startup founder, is a lot of 0-to-1 learning. So like if I don't know something about a subject, but I need to become an expert before this partnerships meeting,
yes.
Like, okay,
explain blank to me, because it can also put the 0-to-1 in context. It can also say like, I'm about to meet with a university to talk about X. What do I need to know about this kind of university that, it can shape the 0-to-1 private tutor kind of thing. I think that's a really smart reminder and a much better way of putting it, honestly, than search, because I described it as how you would use search, but you're right, it's 0-to-1 learning. And that, I think that's just really powerful.
Yeah. Another interesting one, which I love, is we also, maybe this is specific to me, but we use it for like constant product feedback. And so we have basically a bot that just kind of like watches people using our platform, and it'll say like, oh, this person got stuck at this place. Maybe like in the interim, just give them a little tool tip to say like, go around this way. And then we can kind of fix it in the background before, it becomes too much of a problem.
I love that. Okay. So we've just given people a lot of different ways of using and engaging. What's the stuff you wish that it could do that it can't quite do yet? I'll give you my example in a second.
Okay. Do you want me to answer first?
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to give you mine if you want me to go first. You want me to
No,
go first?
I mean, well, maybe, but I'll answer. I would love to be a better manager. I would love to know more about what the people in my team and the people that we're serving really want and understand. I think there's some opportunity for like tools like Hume to get this, right? Like not just what they say they want, but like what they feel, and what they're maybe saying over time. So if I had a magic wand, I would have like a magical AI powered manager.
Yeah. I love that. And so to sort of tell you what to do in those circumstances, I've found it's useful sometimes as a quasi therapist and quasi coach to like talk through work problems to the extent that it's not like it's giving me advice, but it is an interlocutor that helps me clarify my own thinking. And I think by talking, and I don't need to be talking to a person to do that, it turns out. So here's the thing I want to give it data, and I'll describe very simple data and have it reliably help me with fuzzy requests with that data. And I don't mean like fuzzy search in a technical sense, maybe it's that, but here's my favorite. Take all my LinkedIn contacts and just tell me, who do I know who's an executive at a consumer products good company in the Midwest that's really big? I don't know. It's like, that's how I might think about it, because like some startup wants to sell something to them. And then today I got to go and like think like, what are those companies? Okay, search manually, Procter and Gamble, I don't know, like whatever. And when I can upload the data right now into, you know, Claude or ChatGPT, but then when I ask these questions, the answers are such garbage that it's not even worth it. And so I don't need them to be perfect, but I just need them to be better, which I expect they will be as the models get better.
Yep. That's
And
very
can
useful.
access other outside data and like all that kind of stuff and stitch all these things together. Cool. Any parting thoughts before we wrap?
Ooh. No, I think I'm good here. Yeah.
If people are curious about finding internships, they can check out Folio at folio.works. And we are very excited to see what unfolds. And also, by the way, a lot of the students you work with are themselves going to be needing to use AI to get more things done. Like, you know, be an intern. Intern uses AI way better than intern who doesn't use AI. And then I'll say for folks who are listening for the first time, the reason we call this Is Not Advice is because we don't really know what you should do in your situation. We will only share our own stories of what have worked for us in the hopes that it is useful. You can find some of the past episodes written up at thisisnotadvice.work, not .works. Let's be really clear. These are two totally different top-level domains, .works and .work. And we get these questions by, you know, what folks out there ask and what our friends are curious about. And so I'm really grateful, Cathy, and thank you for being here. To be continued.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, y'all.